Hi everybody! I wanted to give you a start on your analysis practice homework in case you were stuck because we didn't get time to do the modeling class. So you can find this homework assignment under modules. This is homework number 6. And the format is the same as the last time we did Say Mean Matter, which was on our Asynchronous Wednesday last week. Okay, so at the top we have some sentence patterns that you can use to help you figure out how to word things. And down here we have the 3 parts of the friar's quote during the wedding scene. So let's go ahead and do the red one together, and then you can do the orange ones by yourself. Okay. So remember the context for the quote. The friar is saying this to Romeo and Juliet as they are getting married. And our first quote is, "These violent delights have violent ends, and in their triumph die like fire and powder, which as they kiss, consume." And we know here that consume means to eat each other up. You might also remember that violent means intense as well as aggressive or hurtful, okay? So our first step is to do the say. We're trying to do a paraphrase so simple that an 8-year-old could understand it. And so we're trying to just say literally what the quote says. So these violent delights have violent ends. I'm going to use the word intense. So I'll say intense pleasures can lead to violent or intense. Instead of ends, I'll say outcomes or results, outcomes. And in their triumph die like fire and powder, which is they kiss, consume. Triumph is tricky, so I have to think about how would I paraphrase in their triumph die. Triumph is like the culminating victory, the highest moment maybe. So I'll say intense pleasures can lead to violence, intense outcomes. In their highest moment can be like fire and gunpowder, which come together and explode. Okay, so I've tried to switch out a lot of the words to try to make it more like what I'd say. Now I'm going to read it out loud and see if it makes sense. Intense pleasures can lead to violent or intense outcomes. In their highest moment can be like fire and gunpowder, which comes together and explodes. That seems kind of confusing. I'm going to try to make it a little bit simpler. So I'm noticing that he's talking about intense pleasures, and it says their highest moment. So it's like maybe at their most pleasurable moment, or when they seem like the best, that's where they're like fire and gunpowder, which are exploding. So I'm going to try it again. I'm going to rearrange the words a little bit. So intense pleasures can lead to violent outcomes because at their most intense happy moment, they can be like a spark, which is like fire, with gunpowder. When pleasures come together, they can explode. Okay, so that's kind of what I can get for the say. And now I think that goes into the mean, right? It still feels a little confusing, and this is why we do a mean. What does this quote really mean? Why does Friar Lawrence say it? What is below the surface? What are his feelings and motivations? Right away, I'm getting that he's cautioning. He's saying, be careful here. There's danger ahead. And if I think about, so I'll put that. That's my big idea. I think he means that there's danger ahead. This feels like a warning to Romeo and Juliet. So let me think about how I can say that more clearly. What does this quote really mean? I'm going to say, I'll use one of my sentence starters. So what is interesting about this quote? When blank says it suggests, his comment is significant because he suggests, I'm going to say this. When Friar Lawrence compares, and I think he's comparing their love, right? That feels like the intense pleasure. Okay, so I'm going to try it. When Friar Lawrence Okay, so I'm going to say when Friar Lawrence compares Romeo and Juliet's love to a gunpowder and a spark, he suggests that the fire of their love might cause an explosion in the powder of their family's feud. That feels like a jump. I haven't really explained why I think that their love is the fire and the gunpowder is their feud. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more detailed in my mean. Let me look back again. I'm going to start with Friar Okay, so I'm going to say Friar Lawrence's comment about the fire and powder sounds like a warning to the couple about how their love could go wrong. So I can get that right away. I got that there was a warning. And now I'm going to try to expand on what I hear that warning being. When Friar Lawrence compares Romeo and Juliet's love to gunpowder and a spark, he suggests that the fire of their love might cause an explosion in the powder of their family's feud. So now we're going to the matter. So I have to build on what I wrote in the mean. Why does that mean? Why does this warning, why does this comparison matter? What big ideas, conflicts, or characters can we understand better? So I have a bunch of ideas for where I could go with the matter. I could say that this has something to do with my characterization of the friar, that he's cautious or maybe wise, that he sees dangers that other people miss. I think I could also say that it goes to the conflict of like thinking versus acting impulsively. So I could connect it to like when we rush into something that we're excited about, we don't often think about the dangers that are behind it. So maybe it shows me something about the friar. Maybe it shows me something about the dangers of acting impulsively. I don't think it has anything to say about Romeo and Juliet so much. Okay, let me look at my sentence starters. Okay, this quote reveals, this quote demonstrates, this reflects the conflict between. I'm going to do reveals because I think I want to say something about how it helps me understand the friar and his ideas. So I'm going to say this warning reveals the friar's wisdom Okay, so I'm going to say this warning reveals the friar's wisdom. He sees how this marriage could lead to disaster, even though Romeo and Juliet are really joyful at being together. And as I write this, I'm realizing maybe it also shows that he's not as wise as he thinks he is, because he was like, oh, I think this is going to be a good thing. But even as he performs the marriage, he's like, this could explode. So I'm going to also add that. Okay, so now I've gotten my second sentence. It also reveals a weakness in the friar's logic. He hoped the marriage would lead to peace, but even as he performs it, he can see how it could lead to more violence. So now maybe the friar isn't as wise as he thinks it is, or maybe this is foreshadowing. I could write both of those. Okay, so now I've got a say mean matter. I have my quote. I've worked to come up with a paraphrase that makes pretty decent sense. I've built on that with what does he mean when he's talking about fire and powder. And then I'm trying to connect it to a larger conflict in the play or something that I can learn about the character. That's how you do a say mean matter. Good luck.